Haribo. Mataji, can you hear us?
Wonderful. Sampurn, thank you. Thank you so much. That was really nice.
Thank you, Mataji.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you everyone for joining in our ongoing discussion of the Bhagavad Gita. Last time we did the second chapter, and we'll resume our discussion from the third chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shamati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pashachade Shatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. So the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is titled as Karma Yoga, one of the more popular, contemporarily more popular chapter of the Gita, quoted quite a bit also, and also one of the simpler chapters. Second chapter was a little long, and different concepts presented over there. Krishna was trying to cast a wide net. Chapter 3 is narrow, focused, and karma being something that we can all experientially relate to. It's one of the easiest chapters of the Gita. So I hope that you all are allocating the 15 minutes or so every day to revise on the previous chapters. That way you'll be able to build your knowledge base as we go deeper and deeper into the Gita. So as usual, we'll start with a quick recap, and just by yeah.
Are you not doing Facebook Live? Because I don't see you on Facebook.
I did the Facebook Live.
Mataji, it is showing Mataji live on Facebook.
It
on
is?
The left, top left corner.
Oh, really?
On the PowerPoint it shows.
Oh, on the PowerPoint is showing, because it's not showing on my Facebook. So anyways, if it is happening, that's fine. That's fine. I'm hoping it's happening.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hopefully it's happening.
Yeah, let's hope it's happening.
So we'll start with a quick recap, and as usual, if you can, by show of hands, volunteer for the answers. So the first section of the Bhagavad Gita had 6 chapters, and the first chapter is go ahead, Akshay Prabhu.
Observing the armies on the battlefield.
Okay, good. And so observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it had 46 verses. The second chapter,
contents of the Gita summarized.
Okay. Third chapter, which we are doing today.
Karma Yoga.
Raise your hand
Oh, sorry.
using this. Go to the participants. Now you can raise your hand. Raise hand.
And so third chapter is Karma Yoga, which we are doing. Fourth chapter.
Transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
Okay.
And
Fifth chapter.
Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness.
Okay. And the sixth chapter.
Dana Yoga.
Dhyana Yoga.
Jnana Yoga.
Okay. Thank you. So, quick recap on the flow of the second chapter. So it started off with Arjun being overcome with doubts about his duty, and Krishna addressing each of these doubts. Then he introduces them. He introduces Arjun to the notion of the soul. Then he speaks about the importance of doing one's duty and the higher importance of executing the duty of the soul. And then he concluded by speaking about the benefits of being situated in this position, which is executing a duty on the platform of the soul. So that was the flow. So the second chapter was divided into 5 sections. The section 1 is Arjun's surrender. Section 2 is Gyan. It's Sankhya, which is the distinction between material body and the spirit soul. It's a category of Gyan. Section 3 was Karma. Section 4 is Nishkam Karma. And section 5 is Sthita Prajna. So these were the 5 sections that we discussed in the second chapter. So does anybody remember what is Sankhya Yoga?
you're not the body, you're the soul.
Okay. Yes. So it's the distinction between the body and the soul. Yeah. Go ahead, Ravi Prabhu.
I think she conveyed that to Prabhuji, and Krishna was telling the temporariness of the body. There was a time that the 2.12 is the primary verse.
Okay. Thank you. So Sankhya Yoga is the study of matter and spirit. Then, as per Krishna, what is karma? Okay, go ahead, Piyali.
To do your duty without thinking about the result is what is the part is the Karma Yoga defined in chapter 2.
Okay, so that actually comes a little later on.
Mhm.
Earlier on, Krishna, he defines the basic understanding of karma, which is doing your prescribed duties. Doing it without detachment is a further refinement that will come later on in the chapter. But as we will see in the third chapter also, the karma is essentially considered to be doing your prescribed duties. So activities performed as per scriptures. Then if you remember in the first chapter, there were 5 concerns that Arjuna had raised about fighting the battle. And in the second chapter, Krishna addresses 4 of these concerns. The 5th is implicit, 4 of these concerns. So what was the first concern of Arjuna and how did Krishna address it? Okay, Shivani, go ahead.
Confusion.
Okay, maybe share some technical issues. So the first concern was, Arjun's concern was compassion. And Krishna addresses it by using the Sankhya. That the body is destructible and the soul is eternal. So how is it possible to have okay, no, Shivani, we couldn't hear you. I think maybe you were on mute or something. So the first concern was addressed through Sankhya. The body is destructible and the soul is eternal. What was the second concern and how did Krishna address it? Okay, go ahead. I'm not able to see the name of the person raised, but whoever raised it, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Oh, Srivani Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The second concern is enjoyment. And Krishna addressed that, saying that, like, by doing his, prescribed duty, he will enjoy the results on earth and then go to heaven. If he loses also, he does that. And if he does not do the duty, like, he will be disrespected, and so there is no enjoyment.
Okay. Thank you, Ravi Prabhu. So the second is enjoyment, that if he wins, he will enjoy the kingdom and then go to heaven. And if he loses, then he goes to heaven and enjoys over that. Third concern, I just wanted to hear from somebody else, is
fear of sinful reactions.
Fear of sinful reactions. Thank you.
Kshatriya, so as Kshatriya, it is Arjuna's duty to fight, and whether he wins or loses, that doesn't matter. He will go to heaven. But if he chooses not to fight, then he will incur sin and he will have to go to hell.
Very good. Thank you. And the fourth one.
A destruction of family traditions.
Thank you. And how does Krishna address it?
That Krishna tells Arjuna that as a Kshatriya, it's his duty to fight. And if he does not do that, then people will follow suit and they'll kind of whimsically quit their karma, and that will lead to destruction of society.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. So, quick summary. So, Krishna introduced us to a new term, Buddhi Yoga, and quick summary of Buddhi Yoga. It is synonymously used with Nishkam Karma, as Pyali was saying, which is karma without any desires. And yes, Shivani. Okay, still can't hear. So Buddhi Yoga is synonymously used with Bhakti Yoga and Nishkam Karma. There are subtle differences that will be later on, but at least for now, they are used interchangeably. And the primary focus of Buddhi Yoga is to act for the pleasure of Krishna, where karma or activities are performed on the platform of bhakti. So we also discussed about two terms, paradharma and swadharma, and important distinction for us to be aware of when pursuing Bhagavad Gita study. So paradharma is the dharma of
Of the body.
Of the soul.
Of the soul. I think it came with the proper dramatic effect also. Thank you for that. So paradharma is dharma of the soul and swadharma is the dharma of the body. So it's actually the dharma of the varna and the ashram. So depending on what the person's, whether the person is a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whether the person is Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, what is the person's occupational duties? So that is Swadharma, and it obviously changes. And Paradharma is of the soul, so it is eternal. What is the process of practicing Paradharma?
Bhakti.
Thank you. Bhakti. And the process of practicing Swadharma?
Karma.
Karma. Very nice. And Paradharma is based on the Vedanta, which is the conclusions of the Vedas. And Swadharma is based on the Vedas, the details. So there's a lot of details in the Vedas about what to do, what not to do. But the essence of the Vedas, which is the Vedanta, is to follow the Paradharma. So now for the easy part, we have 2 verses to memorize. And just want to see if anybody would volunteer. Somebody can do the Sanskrit and somebody can do the English. Yes, I can't see the participant, but go ahead. There should be some way for me to see who's...
नत्वेवाहं जातुनासं नत्वं नेमे जनाधिपा न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्.
Okay, thank you, Radha Mataji. You know the translation?
Never there was a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor any kings, and in the future there are any of something I forgot.
Will cease to exist.
Or in the future they cease to be.
Okay.
First cease to be.
Okay, good. And we had a second verse, 247, famous verse. Anybody would like to do the Sanskrit?
कर्मण्ये वाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर माते संगोस्तव अकर्मणि.
Okay, thank you, Sunil Prabhu. Translation.
So you have the right to perform your what is your prescribed duty, but you are not certainly entitled to the fruits of action. Should never consider yourself the cause of the results of all the activities that you perform, and you should never be attached to not doing your duty.
Okay, right. It's a long translation and Prabhu got it right. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of the recap. Thank you all for following up diligently. And for those who are not for those who are not volunteering answers, I'm guessing they are doing it out of modesty. But I would encourage you to volunteer, to participate, and inspire others also. I'm having some technical difficulties in seeing who raised the hand. And I think somehow because of this Facebook linkage, it just shows me somebody, like I see 3 people have raised hands, but I'm not able to see who has raised hands. So I'll try and figure that out for next week's.
Prabhu, I had raised my hand. I had a question before you begin chapter 3, and that had to do with, Gita is, the Bhagavad Gita is the most translated and most interpreted book. So, but in all these different versions, are the 18 chapters and the 700 verses, are they constant? Is it just the interpretation of these that are different?
Yes, Prabhu. So the verses are the same, the chapters are the same. Chapter titles may differ a little bit here and there, but the delineation of the chapters are also the same. But as you mentioned, so the verses, meaning the Sanskrit, is the same, but because Sanskrit is it's a contextual language. Different translators have translated verses slightly differently, and the big difference is in how they have written the explanation on the verses.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, so chapter 3 is Karma Yoga. So let's see what's the connection with.
I think Akshay has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Akshay.
It was an old. Yeah.
Maybe not. So connection of chapter 3 with chapter 2. So in the second chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna many things. So he tells him that you have to do your duty. You're a Kshatriya, you have to fight. So he preaches to him karma. And then he also says Buddhi Yoga, that but you are the soul. And as a soul, you have nothing to do with the body. So Arjuna, he is confused. So in his mind, karma refers to action, and Gyan refers to inaction. So he opens up the chapter asking Krishna about what is it that you would like me to do. You are saying both things, that I should follow karma and I should follow Gyan, that I should fight and I should not fight. So in the third chapter, Krishna will clarify to Arjuna the difference between karma and Gyan. And then while doing so, Krishna will also explain karma in details. So let's look at the flow of the chapter. So it begins with the fact that Arjuna is confused between karma and Gyan. And Krishna, he begins by explaining the suitability of karma. And by suitability, what it means is the contextual suitability. So we'll speak about it later on. But suitability means that right now, this is what is appropriate for you. So that's the contextual suitability that Krishna will explain. He will talk about the potency of karma, the power of karma, then the universalness of karma, how it is all pervasive, and then he will caution about the dangers of not performing your karma, or there's a typo over here. I should have said not performing karma, or performing sinful activities. So this is the mnemonic for the third chapter. We have Arjuna confused, Krishna speaking about the suitability of karma, the potency of karma, the universalness of karma, and the danger of not performing your prescribed karma. So this is how the third chapter is. is divided. The first section is Arjun's doubts. The second section is the discussion between karma and jnana, where Krishna will establish the suitability of karma. Third section is Nishkam karma, where he will talk about the potency of karma. Then karma to set an example. And this is the universal impact of karma. And the last section is vikarma. So vikarma is opposite to karma. So opposite in the sense karma is pious, vikarma is impious. So these are the 5 sections in the third chapter. CSPU and confusion, suitability, potency, universalness, and no sense. So let's take a look at each of these sections. So what's Arjun's position so far? So in the connection between 2 and 3, we discussed this, that he heard Krishna telling him that he's not the body, but a spirit soul. And then Krishna recommended that he perform a Kshatriya duty and fight. And then he glorified Buddhi Yoga on the platform of Jnana. So the outcome of this is that Arjun considers that Krishna is endorsing Jnana over karma. That Krishna is saying that inactivity is preferred to activity. And as a surrendered disciple, he does not internalize the doubt, but he immediately places it before his guru. That this is my doubt, please clarify it. So the second section talks about the suitability of karma. So Arjun's conception, okay, go ahead. Somebody has a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, here Buddhi Yoga, it is actually the culmination of karma and jnana, right, Prabhuji? So, Buddhi Yoga on the platform of jnana is referred as Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, still Krishna is explicitly mentioning some action, right, Prabhuji? Like, because why Arjun was confused that, Krishna is prescribing inactivity?
So what you're saying is right, and that's what gets clarified subsequently. So we know because Prabhupada has already clarified that for us, but Arjun's confusion basically comes from 249, where Krishna tells Arjun that while staying on the platform of knowledge, keep all abominable actions away from you. So, so it's a declaration by Krishna to Arjun that you stay on the platform of knowledge and abominable actions like for fighting of the war, you keep that away from you. That's what Arjun understands. And Krishna, of course, is already talking from a deeper perspective that he will explain later on. And Krishna does that he speaks things a little ambiguously, maybe not deliberately, but it allows for a person to ask more questions, and then it allows for Krishna as a teacher to clarify. So this is what the clarification phase is.
Sure, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay, so the second section is the suitability of karma. Now, Arjun's conception is that karma and jnana are alternative paths to the same goal. Now, when we speak about Gyan over here, what we are referring to is Atma Gyan. So Gyan is a little different from Gyani. So Gyan doesn't really mean that one who is busily studying or one who is busily acquiring knowledge or information from everywhere. That could be part of karma also. That one is studying, one is analyzing, one is working to understand different nuances. But Gyan that is discussed over here is that one who is Atma Gyani, which means that one who is situated in the conception of the self as a soul and not as a body. So what Arjuna is thinking is that the pursuit of the notion of Atmagyan and the pursuit of karma, they're alternative paths to the same goal. Krishna's explanation is that they are not alternative paths, but they are rungs on the ladder to the same goal. So this is what Arjun conception is. That there is a goal and there are several paths, and there is one path which is long and windy, which is karma, which has a lot of challenges on it. And then there is this path of Gyan, which is straight and short and festooned with flowers. So he's like, let me take this path. Why are you making me take this difficult and arduous path? And Krishna says, no, they are not different paths, but different rungs on the same ladder. So you cannot reach the stage of Gyan without going through the stage of karma. Yes, Pyali. You have a question?
Yeah. Prabhu, the question is then, like, so far in the first chapter and the second chapter, I do not see that Arjuna has figured out that there is a goal. He's just confused. He's asking, what should I do? Like, so when you're saying that in Arjuna's mind, he sees a two-path approach to a goal. And when Krishna is clearing that confusion, no, it's not a two-path, it's just how it is nuanced or layered. There is no goal that either of them have talked about. So when you say to reach a goal, what do you mean over here?
So that's an excellent question, and you're right. Neither Arjun nor Krishna has spoken about a goal in specific terms.
Mm-hmm.
In general terms, Arjun's goal is that tell me what should I do so that I am not infested with sinful reactions, I'm still compassionate. So all the doubts that he has placed, the removal of those doubts are his current goal. And Krishna, he's aligning both them. So he's addressing Arjun's immediate goal is that I'm in anxiety because of all these reasons. Get me out of this anxiety. Krishna said, yes, I will get you out of this anxiety. But Krishna, being Krishna, while he is getting them out of this anxiety, he will also continue to define and not just the goal, but he will continue to define the goals. So based on one's conception, one will have different goals. And then ultimately he will resolve the goals and say that this is the ultimate goal. So right now, neither Krishna nor Arjun are specifically talking about goal setting. They're talking more in a more general way.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So this is the first explanation that Krishna gives to Arjun, that it's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of suitability. So from the stage of karma to the stage of jnana, the transition is based on adhikar, which is the Sanskrit for suitability. So if you are suitable for jnana, then you practice jnana. But if not, then you practice karma. So he establishes this baseline that not a choice. It's not that you go, depending on your propensity, you do either karma or jnana. It depends on your qualification and your adhikar. And then he will talk about why is this so important. So in establishing this adhikar, he will give the difference between karma and jnana. So a person who considers the self as the body, adhikar is karma, which means that a person who is still in the material bodily conception. A person who is able to see the self as a spirit soul, adhikar is jnana. For a person who is full of desires, karma. For a person who has no material desires, jnana. For a person who needs to actively engage their senses, karma. For one who is fully self-satisfied, jnana. And for a person who is attached. So attached to the family, attached to the objects of the senses, attached to the bodily conception, karma. And for a person who is renounced, jnana. So in describing this difference between karma and jnana, Krishna is also establishing the suitability of one path over another. And at this point, now Krishna will speak all the 18 chapters to Arjuna. So, so when he says in 3rd chapter that Arjuna, you're suitable for karma, and then later on in the 12th chapter, he will say, Arjuna, you're suitable for bhakti. It does not mean that over the period of from the 3rd to the 12th chapter, Arjuna's changed from being a materialist to a spiritualist. It just means that this is the conversation that they're having, in which Krishna is notionally using Arjuna as a point of reference. So in this he says that in the 2nd chapter, in the verse 47, I said karmanya eva adhikaraste. So the most important word in that verse is adhikar. That what is your right? So the translation of the word is that one has the right to perform your prescribed duty. Generally, we say right means that you have to perform your prescribed duty. But that's not what adhikar means. What adhikar means is that one who is so qualified, then they need to perform their prescribed duty. So adhikar is used in a limiting sense over there and not in an elevating sense. So adhikar over there doesn't mean that the person has elevated privileges. What it means is that is all your adhikar is. That is all your qualification is to perform your prescribed duties. That is your adhikar. Because if that was the absolute qualification, then Krishna would not have spoken anything after. So essentially the difference between karma and jnana, this is one thing that we should remember, is this point. This is the essential difference. Karma, a person sees the self as a body. Jnana sees the self as a soul. And when we say sees the self, this is not from an intellectual basis, but from an experiential basis. That yes, so almost all of us, if we were asked that are you the body or the soul, we'll say we are the soul, we are not the body. But on an experiential basis, how do we react to the what's happening to the body? Do we get disturbed when there is happiness and distress? Do we get attached to that which is connected to our body? So if that is happening, we may have an intellectual understanding, but experientially we are at the level of that we see the self as the body. And a person at the platform of Gyan is truly detached, does not care about respect or disrespect or happiness or distress, profit or loss, because all that is related to the body. It does not even register on him. So this is the essential difference between one who has the adhikar for karma, sees the self as the body, and adhikar for Gyan, seeing the self as a soul. So Krishna then, please go ahead. Some questions.
So, Prabhu, so is it one or the other, or is it, can somebody kind of jump back and forth between the two categories? Because I can't think of anybody who would fit in that second column, that even in ISKCON, the famous Maharajas, for example, I'm sure they have to worry about material things as well, right? So I'm just, I guess, confused as to whether somebody fits in one category or the other, or is it a kind of a spectrum?
It is a spectrum. So as we talk about the stages, so they're transitory. They're not like you're currently in the stage of karma and then you move to the stage of Gyan. All of us are manifestations of that. That maybe at some point before we took to Krishna consciousness, we were more invested in the bodily conception. Mm-hmm. Now we are less so, but we still have bodily attachments, and we still are aspiring to understand our spiritual identity. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, it is a spectrum, and yes, it is a rare platform to be in. Because people who are at that level, you will not see them in day-to-day life. They will not be working with you in your office. You won't see them on the metro. I think the other point you made was in terms of senior devotees. So there's a little bit of a difference between worrying about your body and being invested in the body. So worrying about the body, it's nitya karma. It's basically survival. Everybody is expected to do that. Even a person, the example that is given, even if a person is on the platform of absolute Gyan and he sees a tiger coming, he will cross the street and avoid the tiger. So that does not mean that the person is now becoming a karma. It's just basic survival. But the platform of Gyan gets one to understand this pervasive existence. That yes, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. I'm using my body to further my advancements. I'm using my body, my facilities to serve devotees. I'm using this to serve the deities. I'm doing this to give charity. So that distinction is more pervasive as one progresses more and more in the platform of Gyan.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Also, like you mentioned, like karma and jnana, so they are like, is yoga is involved here, like, connection with Krishna or God here, and also
not yet. So right now, so also I think one thing that may be good is, so we obviously have people with different levels of understanding. So maybe let's not try and jump ahead and disturb the flow. There's a reason that Krishna has established this flow. He comes later on himself. So right now, let's just go with what Krishna is trying to explain us, and that way we can get the most out of this discussion.
Sure, Prabhuji. And one more point, Prabhuji. Can I ask? Like here, like somebody is mentioned with no material desires and fully satisfied. On a fully satisfied stage, is such a person need the necessity of having a jnana?
So that is Gyan, right? So Gyan is not the pursuit of knowledge. Gyan is the understanding that you are not the body, but the soul. So this point was made earlier on also when I was trying to, and Krishna will make it more clearly when we speak in the 4th chapter. But Gyan is not the pursuit of knowledge. That can very well be could be anything. It could be karma also. That one is actively studying and compiling and whatever it is. It's a different kind of karma. Gyan is being on the platform of seeing oneself as the spirit soul as opposed to the physical body.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So Krishna, in order to drive the point of acting as per your adhikar, then he gives Arjuna the example of what would happen if he or somebody else prematurely jumps to the stage of Gyan and then says, I have nothing to do with this body. And I don't need to do anything related to the body, which means no karma for me. So he gives the example of a yogi, that a person who prematurely renounces without having established himself on the platform of Gyan, what will happen? So he may curtail his senses. So he may go to a solitary place and he will try and meditate on the soul. But because he has still not been purified, he still has, so under the karma column we had all those things, material desires, attachments, etc. He still has all of that. So while he is meditating, what will he think about? He will think about his family. That yes, I had a wife, I had a child. He'll think about food. Because these are the things that he will renounce. He will leave his family. He will go into the jungle. He will eat simple food. And then he would think that maybe if I was eating puri aloo, it would be so much better. And then to think about sex, because that desire is still strong. And as a result of that, he will fall. So from being from the position of an aspiring transcendentalist, he will actually become a sinful materialist. Because having tried to control the senses without the requisite purification, the senses will eventually overpower him. And when the senses run wild, then the person is naturally inclined to perform sinful activities. So Krishna cautions Arjuna that if you prematurely jump to the stage of Gyan, this is what is in store for you. And of course, this is there for all of us. So this is this is a warning of what would happen of acting against adhikar. And this is a notion that Krishna will establish throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So adhikar is acting according to your levels of advancement. And if people, they act beyond their adhikar, then the consequences will not be as they desire. So conclusion about suitability of karma, it is for those with material desires, and they take a varna and an ashram, so they will perform activities according to their varna ashram, and by performing karma they will sustain their body. Now people at a stage of Gyan also need to sustain their body, but they don't worry about it. That's the mystical part about it, that one who is situated at the level of the Atma, and we'll see this a few slides down, actually the devas come to serve him. So if I go to a jungle, I will have to actively look for places to get food and eat. And I would have to cook and have, so everything that I was doing, I'd have to do it, because I haven't attracted any mercy. But a person who is situated on the platform of Atmagyan, it is said that the devas are anxious to serve such a person. They make all the arrangements through other people. So other people will come and serve by the flow of influence of natural phenomena. They will be taken care of, or if not, they won't. Then, because people at the stage of the bodily conception need the senses to be engaged, karma engages it in a religious fashion. So the person has a desire to accumulate wealth, then by the rules of karma, they give something in charity also. The person has a desire to eat opulent food, he also gives food to poor people. So that way there is the engagement of the senses and curtailment of the senses also. So there is the religious enjoyment of the senses, and then it protects from fall down. Why? Because based on the person's own advancement, the person has material desires. And karma, it will religiously support all these material desires while helping, and this is the next point, that while allowing for gradual progress. So it's not that the person stays there forever. That's the potency of karma, that while supporting you at your current level, it will allow you to make progress to the subsequent levels. So Krishna, so we have spoken about two sections. One is the confusion of Arjuna, and the second is the suitability of karma. Any questions or comments so far?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Akshay Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Prabhu. So Prabhuji, is it that any human being has a propensity of either of the two, being a karmi or a jnani, naturally occurring in them?
Not really. So if you remember the slide that I showed you, where Arjuna is thinking that I can either do karma or gyan, and then Krishna makes this point that these are not alternate paths. If they were alternate paths, then I could say that I have the propensity to do karma, I'll do karma, I'll have the propensity to do gyan, I'll do gyan. Right? That's the whole confusion that Arjuna has. But what Krishna is saying is that no, these are rungs in the ladder of advancement. That when you are materially established, when you consider yourself from a material perspective, then your adhikar is to do karma. When you're sufficiently purified, then your adhikar is gyan. Same person, different levels of purification.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So, Prabhu, I had a question. Like, when Krishna is talking about the suitability of karma, and then the next layer is the suitability of gyan, why wouldn't anybody who's reading it or going through what Krishna is saying stop right here and say, okay, suitability of karma is good enough for me. So this is what I'm going to do and stay over here, because it doesn't let me fall. It allows for gradual progress. Why should I even think about the next rung? Because there's a possibility to fall down, or the upper rung, or rung above it. This is a very comfortable position that Krishna is talking about when he's talking about the suitability of karma. So what will keep the readers or the devotees driving forward through the book, through the Gita, through the knowledge?
It's a little bit of like you go to Google Maps, you put your source and destination, and then you get the route that you take. So karma is the first leg, and you're right that the vast majority of people, including us, are there in the first leg. But then that's not. Krishna has always made this point that this is where you are. This is not where you're supposed to end up.
Okay.
In the second chapter, right after karma, he speaks about Buddhi Yoga, which means that he's saying that this is not where I would like you to be. So it's a creative tension that this is where you are. This is where, assuming that you agree with Krishna, this is where you would like to be. How would you get from point A to point B? That's the path that Bhagavad Gita helps us navigate. And in doing so, then Krishna reveals certain shortcuts also, saying that you can go from point A to point B by this route, but I have a shortcut also, wherein you can reach point B much quicker. So that's another incentive for a person to continue to pursue.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, can hear you.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, the slide that where you're showing that Krishna is showing that karma and jnana are rungs in the same ladder, and probably when we advance further, Krishna will bring the bhakti yoga, and probably it may come in the same as one of the rung in the higher in the ladder. My question is it necessary? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what Krishna is trying to convey here when he says that it is jnana is one of the ranks in the same ladder as karma. So someone, does it necessarily has to go through these phases when they advance in their spiritual life or towards the goal, or there is a possibility which comes in a bhakti yoga that someone can straightway go to bhakti yoga rather than going through these stages?
So it's a good point. I was saying that Krishna gives the scenic route, but he also gives a shortcut. Now, I think your question had 2 points. That does somebody have to go through these stages? Yes, unless as long as you are established in the bodily conception, bhakti yoga is not going to help you. It's still going to. It's you're basically just going to be doing something. The difference is that bhakti yoga is, and Prabhupada would use this example, that it's the elevator approach. So there is the yoga ladder in which you climb one rung after another rung after another rung, and you go into the elevator, you press the button, and you go from the bottom floor to the top floor. You still go through all the floors, but the movement is much more rapid, and there is a lot of assistance. When you're climbing the stairs, everything is your effort. That you put one step, then you climb up, you go another step. It's all your effort. In the elevator, there is a motor that is pulling you. In Bhakti Yoga, there is Krishna's mercy that is pulling you. But yes, you still have to go through all the stages.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I have a small question.
Yes, Prabhu. Is that better, Prabhu?
Yes, yes. When you were talking about we have to do karma based on our varnas or the scriptures, is varnashrama is like a hierarchy, or if so, how do I know which karma which varna I belongs to? Because what karma I should do when you.
Yes, Prabhu, it's a good question. It's not a hierarchy, Prabhu. It's a categorization. So, depending on your propensity, your swabhav, you will take to a certain kind of activity or profession, and essentially in an informal way, that's our varna. There are some people who join the army, there are some people who become teachers, there are some people who become computer programmers, depending on the propensity. That's the varna. And Krishna, fourth chapter, he speaks more about it, but it's not based on your birth. It's based on your swabhav. And then your ashram is where you are in life. And again, conception, not just the chronological age, but brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, so also the mental conception. So it's a 4x4 matrix. And there are 16 blocks over there. And for each of that block, there is a set of prescribed duties, which the scriptures give us. So you're a Brahman who's a grahastha, then the scriptures clearly enunciate what are the duties for a Brahman who's a grahastha. What are the duties for a Kshatriya who's a brahmachari? Training, martial arts training, learning to subdue others, learning to subdue your own anger. So different kinds of injunctions are given. That becomes your prescribed duties, and then execution of the prescribed duty is your karma.
So if it is not by birth, because my propensity can sometimes change. Because today I might be, when I in a different phases of life, our propensity might change from varna to varna. So do we have the freedom to do that, or?
It does not change. I think there is some confusion between us. So your swabhav does not change. Within that swabhav, the finer aspects of your propensity will evolve. But a person who has a Kshatriya nature, he will have a Kshatriya nature throughout his life. Now, in this third chapter only, and I think last time you were quoting the verse, the difference between swadharma and paradharma. Krishna makes this point that it is better to do your own prescribed duties, even though you may do it faultily, rather than do the duties of some other varna. And it is to protect people's nature of changing their dharma just whimsically. Because in a way, that is what Arjuna is trying to do. He's saying, I'm a Kshatriya, but because I'm facing with all this difficulty, I'll become a Brahman. And I will go to the forest and meditate over there. So the propensity is established, and it is a descending process. Now, unfortunately, in the current day and age, there is no varnashram system, so to speak. In the Bhagavatam, it is said that Kalau Shudra Sambhati, that in this age of Kali, everybody is a Shudra. Why? Because they don't go through that process. The process of establishing a Varna is more descending. That one takes shelter of a Guru, the Guru instructs you, the Guru observes you, the Guru discerns, and based on what they see you reacting, they will ascribe something that is relevant to your swabhav, and then that becomes your varna. Not that the person gets up in the morning and says, today I'm a Brahman. Next day he says, I'm tired of a Brahman, so I'm a Kshatriya now. It's a very elaborate process of establishing the Varna and the ashram also, which is absent. We for whatever reasons we say that my name is something Shastri, so I'm a Brahman, or my name is something Singh, so I'm a Kshatriya, or something Gupta, so I'm a Vaishya. They're just family names. They have nothing to do with your Swabhav. Now in the Manu Samhita, there is some deference given to this also, where it is said that one inherits the propensity of their parents, and then one inherits the propensity of the environment in which they grow. So a person born of Brahmanical parents who is growing up in a Brahmanical environment will develop a Brahmanical Swabhav. But these are facilitating issues. They are not defining issues. It does not mean that if I'm born of Brahman's parents, it's my birthright to be a Brahman. Prabhupada speaks very strongly against it. Krishna will speak very, very strong. Chaturvarnya Maya Shrestha Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Right? He says that I have constructed these 4 orders of the society, and they are based on one's guna, one's nature and karma, one's activities. This is what was decided, not one's birth.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay, so we did, we concluded the suitability of karma. Let's move on to the potency of karma. That how does karma purify? And Krishna uses the example of, now there are many ways it does, but Krishna specifically uses the example of food. And he uses the example of food because it is pervasive. Everybody needs food. Nobody can say that I don't need food. Everybody can relate to food. So he describes this cycle of yajna. So the Vedas give the prescribed duties. So we discussed that just now, that based on one's varnashram, the Vedas will give one's prescribed duties. The execution of these prescribed duties is called yajna. So sometimes we think that yajna means like sitting in front of a fire and putting oblations. That is one form of yajna. But actually, yajna is considered as the execution of your prescribed duty. So the Vedas give the prescribed duties, one executes the prescribed duties and thus performs yajna. By the performance of this yajna, the devas are pleased. When the devas are pleased, they will send rain. When rains come, then grains come, food comes. And by eating the food, the jivas, they acquire ability and vitality for following the prescribed duties as given in the Vedas. So this is the cycle of yajna that Krishna explains. Vedas, prescribed duties, execution of the prescribed duties is yajna. By the performance of yajnas, the demigods are pleased. Because they are pleased, they send rains. Then, by the influence of the rains, grains come. By consuming the grains, the jivas acquire vitality, and thus they are able to execute their prescribed duties. So, because of the performance of the yajnas, one gets the protection of the devas. Now, one might say that I'm not performing this yajna because I think this whoever is 908, if you can mute your phone, is static coming from the call. Thank you. So a person might say, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm not performing prescribed duties, but I'm still eating happily. And the understanding is that yes, they may be, but it's stealing. So even a thief eats. A person who earns also eats, and a person who is a thief also eats. The person who is a thief, when he is eating, he will be caught and punished. So that is what happens when somebody takes without return. Now, so the protection of the devas, it protects against. Let me see if I can do. There's a lot of static coming from this one particular phone. Okay, not sure how to do it. But if you can put this 301 numbers, 30171 something. If you can put your phone on mute, I would appreciate that. 301-768.
537 also, Prabhuji. Ending with 537. There also.
Yeah, if you can put your phone on mute, would appreciate that. So the protection of the devas is protection from being punished by Lord Yamaraj. Because you may steal and eat, and you may eat, and you may think that I'm eating, but just like a criminal, he's enjoying till the time he's caught. And and after he's caught, he's punished. So the same thing happens. And the other part is that where do the Vedas come from? Ultimately, the Vedas come from Krishna. So all this cycle of yajna is given by Krishna. So Krishna says, I gave the Vedas. I sent the demigods. I gave the prescribed duties. So when you do as I am asking you to do, then you also have my protection. Now, Krishna's protection is more indirect over here because the protection is by virtue of doing what he has asked you to do through the agency of the Vedas. That in the Vedas, he has established the cycle of yajna. Intrinsic in the cycle of yajna is the protection of the devas, which is primary. Because of the protection of the devas, one is protected from falling into sinful activities. And because of the protection of Krishna, one is also able to make subsequent advancements. So what is the potency of karma? That one who is acting contrary to the scriptures is performing vikarma, which is sinful activities. When one begins to act piously, as per the scriptures, as per the varna and the ashram, then one is doing karmakand. Now, karmakand is that one is doing with the desire to enjoy the fruits of the activities. So one is giving in charity with this conception that if I give in charity, I will get more in return for it. That I give $1 in charity, I hope to get $10 back in it. I feed one person today, and in return of that, I get abundance of food. But it is still pious because the person is doing as per the scriptures. The person is doing as per his duty. A Kshatriya is protecting so that he can get fame as valor, as for his valor, and get satisfaction. So he's doing it with fruitive desires, but he's doing as per the scriptures. Now, because of the protection that is offered in the karmakand, the person will eventually move to the stage of nishkam karma, where the person will act without desire for enjoyment. Because in karmakand, there is also this component of detachment. That if you earn money, you give in charity. So I get $100, and rather than saying that you be attached to all the $100, you can give $10 in charity. So you at least have detachment from that $10. This is my hard-earned money that I am now giving in deference to the instructions in the scriptures. So that exercises one's muscles for detachment. And as one follows karma kand studiously and scrupulously, the sense of detachment increases. And one transitions from karma kand to nishkam karma. As one practices nishkam karma, then one begins to see the ultimate purpose. So one will ask that I'm following all this because it is given by Krishna. But right now I'm not engaging with Krishna. I'm engaging indirectly with him. Can I engage directly with him? So the moment Krishna comes into the picture, the activity becomes a yoga. So yoga means to connect with God. So far there is no yoga. There is just activity, vikarma, karma kand, nishkam karma. But then the person begins to say that I'm following all the scriptures, and the scriptures are saying that Krishna is the source of the scriptures. Let me connect with him. Let me see how I can please him. It becomes karma yoga, and then karma yoga will eventually fructify into bhakti yoga, where the person now exclusively acts for the pleasure of Krishna. Earlier on, the person still acts for himself, but he takes a part of the result and offers it to Krishna. That this is mine that I'm offering to you. And then in bhakti yoga, the person does not have this sense of this is mine and this is yours. The person has this sense that everything is yours, Krishna. The only thing I can do is do what you would like me to do. So to be elevated to this platform, it is karma that is driving them through these stages. So these stages, which are also called the yoga ladder, it's important to remember. And nishkam karma can also go to the stage of gyan. So not everybody from nishkam karma will proceed to karma yoga. So not everybody will aspire to establish a relationship with Krishna. There are some who will be at this stage that fine, I don't have any material desires. They will be established in Gyan, which is Atma Gyan, that I am an eternal spirit, soul, and then seek to make advancements over in that path, which is a separate route. So again, as each person has different propensities, they will navigate different routes. But this is the path that Krishna recommends that one go through, powered by the potency of karma, to finally reach the stage of bhakti yoga. So the potency of karma is that it protects while advancing. It gives both things. That it protects you, as we saw in the cycle of yajna, and because it attracts the mercy of the devas and Krishna, it also helps you advance. So mnemonic for this is VKNYK. We know you, Krishna. Vikarma, karma kand, nishkam karma, karma yoga, and Krishna or bhakti yoga. So I'll pause here, see if you have any comments. Okay, so we move on to the fourth section, which is the fact that the universality of karma. So, so Arjun, now this is not an explicit question that Arjun asks. It's more of an implicit question. That if one through the performance of karma has progressed to the state of Atma Gyan, then should he give up performing his activities? Now, what is Arjuna's line of reasoning? His line of reasoning is that the purpose of karma is to get Atmagyan. So when one has reached that stage of Nishkam karma, then there's no reason to perform karma. So does that person abandon karma? And Krishna says one still acts with detachment to set an example for others. So he's agreeing and disagreeing with Arjuna. So one still acts, does not give karma. With detachment means the person has no need to act now. Because at this stage, when one has reached the state of Gyan, then the Devas, they lose their ability to harm such a person. In fact, as we discussed earlier, that they look at opportunities to serve such a person. So such a person is no longer worried about sinful reactions or Yamraj or will Indra be displeased with me, because he has transcended that stage. There is no need for him. There is no need for him for seeking protection from the Devas. There is no need for him for seeking purification because he is already purified. So, but Krishna says that he still acts to set an example for others. And then he gives this example. He says that people follow the leaders. Such people who have progressed to the state of Atmagyan, they are naturally seen as leaders. People are attracted to renounced people. People are attracted to those who are detached. So, and such they try to emulate the people. And he says, if the leaders renounce the work, they are properly situated. So there is no harm in them renouncing their work. But those who follow them, they will renounce in ignorance because they haven't reached that level of purification. And then the example is of Arjuna. Arjuna is a king and a leader. So even if Arjuna is at the stage of Gyan, where he does not need the protection of karma, Krishna is saying you still should fight. Because if you don't fight, then others who may not be at that level will say, look at Arjuna. He gave up the battlefield, so I will also forego my duty. But because they don't have that level of purification, they will create disturbances for themselves and for others. And then Krishna gives two examples. He gives the example of Maharaj Janak, who was completely on a spiritual platform, one of the Mahajans. He understood Atmagyan completely, but he was completely involved in ruling the kingdom. The duties of the king, of the father, Sita Devi's father, everything he executed perfectly. Why? To set an example for others. And then Krishna, he gives his own example. And he says that, look at me, that I have no need. There is no need for me to act because everything is fulfilled. But yet, and this is Krishna talking about his Bhaumalila in Mahabharata, he says, yet look at me. I'm a husband, I have a wife, I have children, I help the king, I take care of the political intrigue. All that I'm doing because if I don't do this, people will follow my path. Nothing will happen to me, but they will be driven to ruination. So the point he makes is that even if one is advanced to the platform of Atmagyan, still perform your prescribed duties to set an example for others. And this is an instance of Nishkam karma, because there is no reason, there is no calm behind that karma. The person is doing it for only altruistic purpose. He has nothing to get from that karma. He has no desire to fulfill. He is only doing it because it is the right thing to do. So this covers the fourth section, which is universality of karma. Like karma does not stop when one reaches the stage of purification, but continues after that as a service to others. Okay, any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, just one thought, Prabhuji, like for us being a devotee, like having in connection with Krishna, he has the tendency to help others. So he does Nishkama Karma. But even those who may go to the platform of Jnana, for those people also that altruistic tendency will be there, Prabhu. Like, is it connection with Krishna is required to have
Yes,
that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's move on to the next section, which is Krishna talking about the karma. So Arjun, by now, he's completely impressed about the need to perform your prescribed duty. And so now he asks that, then why do people even perform sinful activities? Because there is so much potency and protection in performing your prescribed duties. The devas are happy, Krishna is happy, you're making advancement, your senses are engaged, there is happiness. So then why do people knowingly? So they know that this is sin. They know that stealing is a sin. They know that killing is a sin. Why do they knowingly perform sinful activities? So Krishna says that it is because of lust only. So when he talks about lust, he talks about the swabhav of lust. Lust is, of course, a term that there is this notion of lust. But the point that he makes is that people have this propensity of lust. And lust means the desire to possess. Generally, it is used in a sexual connotation, but at least in the Bhagavad Gita, lust is more presented from the perspective of the desire to possess that is not yours. Strong desire that this person has this car that I don't have. So you lust after that person's car or the person's wealth or the person's stature in society. So because the people have this nature of lust, and Krishna presents it almost like a battle between the jiva. So the jiva over here is the soul and lust. So the nature of the soul is to act piously. The nature of lust is to have one act impiously. So he says in this battle that is going on, there are different embarkments that need to be protected or conquered. So for a person who is performing sinful activities, lust first conquers the senses. So the senses become very, very strongly attracted to the object of the senses. What you see is what you want. What you hear, it bewilders your mind. You're still attracted to prajalpa. So the senses is the first embarkment that lust conquers. Then it conquers the mind. So mind is where the thoughts are there. So even if the senses are not engaged, one is thinking about it. That how can I get this car that my neighbor has? Or how can I get a house bigger than the person down the street? Your mind is thinking about it. So that is the second area that the lust conquers. And then there is intelligence. So intelligence is making plans. So the senses get attracted, the mind dwells on it, and the intelligence plans. That if I do this, if I do that, if I steal over here, and if I cheat this person, then I will have so much, and now I will have a bigger house and a better car. Right? So in this way, lust, it conquers the senses, mind, and intelligence. And then Krishna says that higher than the senses is the mind, and higher than the mind is intelligence. So then Arjun's point is, so that means there is no hope. So all my defenses have already been conquered by lust. Krishna says no. Higher than the intelligence is the jiva. So the jiva can now fight back from each of these three embarkments. Through karma, it can regain control of the senses. So what is karma kand all about? Performing prescribed duties, which means sense control, which means eat this, do not eat this. Have only relationship within marriage, not outside marriage. Only earn as much as you need to support your family and give in charity, not more. So the senses are controlled by the performance of the prescribed duties. And the mind is controlled when one starts performing these duties without desires to enjoy. Because that's what the mind is looking for. How do I engage the senses to enjoy? And when one gets purified by karma, and one performs karma without attachment, then one has now regained control of the mind. The mind is no longer dwelling on all this because it is not attached to the activities. It is self-satisfied. There is no envy. There is no greed. So there is no need for the mind to meditate on all this. And then intelligence by the process of bhakti. That when the jiva engages themselves in the relationship with Krishna, then the intelligence that is so far making plans, that let me do this and let me do that, now it is making plans that how do I serve the devotees, how do I serve the deities, how do I serve Krishna through different ways. So in this way, lust is driven back from all the three positions that it has conquered. So this is the last section. So I'll quickly summarize also. We are a little bit running out of time. So summary is that karma is the performance of duties prescribed by the Vedas as per Varna and Ashram. And we discussed that this karma is also considered to be yajna. That one with material desires needs engagement of the senses, and karma is recommended. Premature renunciation will cause downfall, and karma engages the senses and purifies the desires, finally taking one to the state of nishkam karma. Even at the stage of jnana, still engage in karma to set an example for others. And lust, which infests the senses, the minds, and the intelligence, is the cause of the karma. And then there is a strategy to drive away lust, which is the segue into the fourth chapter. that what is that knowledge by which one can reclaim the senses, mind, and intelligence from lust, which is the fourth chapter is Gyan Yoga. So this is the verse to memorize, famous verse in the third chapter. Yagga Shishta Sanasanta Muchante Sarvakilbisham Bunjate Tirthagam Papam E Pachante Atma Karana. That the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So this is the, if you remember the cycle of karma that was established on food, this is a summarization of that cycle of the cycle of yajna there. So things to memorize: the 5 sections in the third chapter, the difference between karma and jnana, for whom is karma suitable and why, then the progression of karma, nishkam karma, how can one be protected from sinful activities, and the flow in the third chapter, and the memorization of 3:13. So this is just an easier way for us to remember using mnemonics the 3 sections of the Gita, which is karma, bhakti, and gyan. The 6 chapters of the first Gita. This is observing the armies. Then contents of the Gita summarize: karma yoga, gyan yoga, karma action in Krishna consciousness, and dhyan yoga. 5 reasons of Arjuna not to fight: compassion, enjoyment, fear of sinful reactions, destruction of family tradition, and indecisiveness. 5 divisions of chapter 2: Arjuna's confusion, suitability of karma. What was the third one? So Arjuna's confusion, suitability of karma.
This one.
Second chapter is Jnana. Second, Arjun surrender, Jnana, Karma, Nishkama, and last one is Sthita Prajna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So the first one was Arjun's confusion. Second one is Sankhya. I just confused in second and third chapter. The first is Arjun's confusion. The second one is Sankhya Yoga. Third one is Karma. The fourth one is Buddhi Yoga. And the fifth is Sthita Prajna. And the 5 divisions in the third chapter. First is confusion of Arjuna, suitability of karma, potency of karma, universalness of karma, and not doing sinful activities. Then the 5 advancements in karma. So this is first is the karma, then karma kand, nishkam karma, karma yoga, and bhakti yoga. So by these, it's just a way to remember, but important to establish the sequence in our mind, and these are just mnemonics that help. So this is the end of the discussion. I can pause here and see if there's any questions, comments.
So,
Yes,
Prabhu, I have probably a very silly question. What is ashram, and when we say ashram, based on your vanara and ashram, what does ashram mean in that?
Ashram is like which stage of life you're in, whether you're a brahmachari or a grahastha or a vanaprastha or a sannyas. So that is your ashram. Varna is whether you're a brahman, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. That's the varna.
Prabhuji, just a comment of appreciation, Prabhuji. Like, the strategy of conquering lust, like the approach that you are teaching, that was very inspiring, and also with the mnemonics and all, like the shortcuts, after a long time, like I know I'm recollecting my student days, feeling so good. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So I don't know beyond which how to express, but I am really enjoying.
Thank you, Prabhu. Sachit,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
you had a question?
Yeah, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, Prabhu, in this different levels in the progression for spiritual life, so probably the first initial stage is differentiating between Vikarma and Karma. And that's probably is what is referred to Vedas. What's prescribed in Veda is called Karma, and what is not prescribed or not to do is Vikarma. And now in today's practical scenario, when practically very less people has access and intention to read Vedas, sometimes confusion comes whether this particular activity comes under karma or vikarma. For example, telling a lie is definitely, everyone knows it's not a good thing and everyone should avoid. But if a situation comes that someone has to lie to help someone, or in fact to save someone, probably that would not be considered as vikarma. So in such kind of confusion, I know Guru and Shastras are there to guide, but in general, what Bhagavad Gita recommends there when you are in a confusion to decide what is karma and what is vikarma?
Thank you, Prabhu. Good question. So Bhagavad Gita recommends what you said, which is to take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, because even if the Vedas, in Kali Yuga, there are different problems. Firstly, the Vedas are not there. The portion of the Vedas that are available, people have not read it. And even if a person has read it, the ability to interpret the Vedas, so it's just like even if a doctor is an expert doctor, if he becomes sick, he'll go to another doctor, because that objectivity is lost when you're applying your knowledge to yourself. So the need to take shelter of somebody else. So Krishna is walking Arjuna down this path to basically indicate that this is what the overall path is. These are the challenges, the points that you're making. These are the points that he wants us to think, that these are the challenges that are there, so that when he's ready to give another path, then we are more open to take to it. If Krishna right away came and said, Arjun, Sarvadam Pratyaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Raj, all you have to do is to take shelter of me, and that is the perfection of your life. And then Arjun would say, but what about my duty as a Kshatriya? What about my enjoyment? What about my happiness? So that conviction to surrender will not be there. But by walking Arjun and us down this path, he is giving us a bona fide progression path. This is what you can do. He is giving us an opportunity to think about the challenges also. And that way, when he gives us a path that has fewer challenges, that is more supportive, then we are more open and eager to take it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll end over here, and we will have our Narsingadev prayer.
Alora is doing the Narsingadev prayer.
Okay.
And Prabhuji, like maybe one small request, Prabhuji, next session, maybe if we can start little 10-15 minutes early, Prabhuji, because we'll have more time, because the complexity is there. We